Hi, I'm Liam Shortall. I'm a musician and composer and producer from Dumfries, and I live in Glasgow. Been here for 10 years making music, jazz-adjacent music, I suppose, funk, soul, jazz, hip-hop and stuff like that. Corto.alto is my project. It's kind of a hybrid between a collective of musicians that live in Glasgow and are my friends. This is the place where I make all my music. I play like trombone all right, and then everything else I can kind of pretend to play. Here's my piano. There's all my amps, my tuba. You want me to play it? That's my tuba. Glasgow, I suppose, is a very close-knit, tight community. Like, being supportive and being part of the community is like really encouraged in Glasgow, and I think that is a big part of it.
I'm Castello. I play drums with corto.alto. I've been in it from day one. It was more of maybe a collective of sorts before it then very much became like a set lineup. The first thing I really did in Glasgow was form my own band, Strata, and then we started a residency in Bar Block. That was back in 2017. And that was kind of one of the first nights that was like original music and not like... People would get together before and do kind of one-off jazz gigs, but there wasn't like a constant. I think the more we were all playing with each other and then getting ideas to form our new ensembles, it just kind of started the ball rolling.
At the time I was playing in Strata, Graham's band, and he was playing in my band. Harry Weir, who plays in my band, plays in Strata, plays in Aku. Matthias, who plays in my band, plays in Tom McGraw and the Brassels, which is another band I play in. Hard to explain it all without like drawing a big graphic. But I think, yeah, everyone's just like in each other's things, because it's not a massive scene, you know what I mean? I suppose everyone in the younger generation are all just like working together and playing in different projects. And then Fergus, obviously, he has been releasing his own albums for years, and he obviously won the Scottish Album of the Year award last year and the Mercury Prize nominee.
Fergus McCready being nominated for a Mercury Prize just was an amazing achievement for himself, but like it kind of shone a light on our scene in a way that is so far-reaching, the Mercury Prize in this country.
My name is Fergus McCready and I'm a jazz pianist based in Glasgow. Corto.alto is very proud of being Glaswegian and being Scottish, and I feel that's really important to me as well, keeping that sort of Scottish identity, keeping where you're from as part of your musicality.
Like them two guys like going like, well, I'm not gonna move to London, I'm not gonna move to Berlin or New York, I'm just gonna stay in Glasgow and make music, had like a big effect on like growing something locally. Especially in the music scene and the jazz scene, there is like a real sense of just like supportiveness and community, and everyone's going to each other's gigs, everyone's listening to each other's music, sharing it, and that's the kind of beautiful thing about Glasgow. I live in a flat on Sauchiehall Street. Anyone who knows Glasgow knows it's like the strip of Glasgow. It's where everyone goes out on a night out. The whole building had just had mice everywhere. Then we got a cat, and then the mice kind of went away. And the rent was just like dirt cheap. It was like £180 a month. And that attracted a lot of like creative people. The whole block was just full of DJs and producers and stuff, so it was really exciting. The guys I lived with, they're all dub and reggae producers. And I was always going to their sessions and playing trombone on different dub records. The Mungo's Hi-Fi guys are like internationally renowned music producers, and they put on events, and they're a sound system crew. They started a night called Walk and Skank, which was then taken over by my flatmate at the time. So I was always going down to that every Wednesday, playing at that. And then also I was just graduated from jazz school, from like studying jazz at the conservatoire. So I was obviously really good friends with a lot of jazz musicians as well.
One of the nice things about the conservatoire was like a lot of freedom to kind of pursue what you enjoy. So like Liam is really into this kind of sort of new style of jazz and maybe some like Afrobeat stuff as well. I myself am really inspired by Scottish traditional music. Graham, who's playing drums, he really loves like Steve Reich and Nick Barch, these minimalist stuff. But since Liam started doing those videos in the flat, that's when I sort of started getting involved in doing that and stuff. I think it was probably about well over a year before we actually did the first gig, I think.
This next tune's called Squonk.
Corto.alto started more like live session videos, all playing in a room together. I kind of just decided to write some stuff and get a camera person in When people came around to record, I'd have to like clean a massive mountain of clothes and dishes and stuff, and then it would be like 20 minutes of rehearsing and then like an hour of just like chatting rubbish, and then maybe you'd record at the end of the day. I think the most we had in a room at one time was maybe 12. Graham Castello was in the first recordings, Fergus McCready, Matthias Sobieski, Harry Weir, James Mackay. We had Anushka Nangai on a few tracks, Johnny Woodham, who plays trumpet with Alphamist. The genres jump around so much. Like one track was like neo-soul. I don't wanna take it back in time. Another track was like a Latin thing, and then someone was doing like punk jazz, and then it was like I had no idea what kind of music I wanted to make. Doing a year of releasing a track every 3 weeks was like a really good way for me to just figure out like what my sound was and what my identity was as a producer and a composer. And I think my new album, Bad With Names, is like way more arrived at that like point where I'm like, I know how I want to sound now. I think across that year of doing them releases, there was probably over like 50 musicians involved in some way. I ended up just like kind of reducing it and just using the guys that I would use most frequently going forward. And you're not choosing people based on how good they are a musician, you're choosing them on like how close you are and how like, especially in improvised music, when you're like taking risks and you're doing stuff that's like, you need people to react and people to be confident with you. And if you know someone really well, you feel like so much more comfortable doing that.
Let's go. Slow!
I'm Rebecca Bassman. I'm a DJ, producer, radio show host, and I recently started a record label releasing Scottish jazz. What makes corto.alto Glasgow is definitely the community spirit, the openness, the welcomingness, the way they interact on stage, the way that they play together. And I think that the corto.alto sound is so unique and distinctive that you could just tell it's them. We might see that what people associate with Glasgow jazz is that sound.
London, they have jazz-specific promoters, jazz-specific venues, just all this like infrastructure around jazz where it's like, if you get this gig, then you'll get on this radio station. If you get this, you'll get on this label. And then there's like kind of an order to things. Whereas Glasgow, there's not incentives to make a certain kind of music that is fashionable or trendy. Everyone's just like kind of doing their own thing, and it's like, it's just really interesting to see that. We run a monthly night called Glitch 41 in the Rum Shack, which is like a jam night kind of community. You know, people that have played for 10 years can get up and play with people that have played for, you know, a couple months, and it's just like all about like just playing music together. When I've had friends that are from Europe, I take them to jam sessions, they're just like, this is great, everyone's so nice. Everyone just speaks to you and goes, all right, man, what's your name? Like, I think that's the beautiful thing about Glasgow, making music here. We're about to play our biggest show ever at the QMU in Glasgow, in our hometown.
One more time for Glasgow.
It definitely feels like the big one of the tour. We played London, which was like the first night, which was also like a lot of people. But that felt more like intimidating. This kind of feels a bit more like a celebration, a bit more like, you know, we're just playing some music with some friends, and like everyone we love is there as well, so yeah.
Ten years ago, I would never have imagined that you would be able to fill a massive venue like QMU with young people. Level progression upwards in terms of what the scene is here. I think it's definitely massively down to corto.alto's music and nights and jams and the collaborations and just how welcoming they are to other people.
Slow!
Glasgow scene is just so vibrant and doesn't need to be or compare to London. It's just entirely its own thing, and what we're doing is, I think I'm proud of what we're doing, but we're only just getting started.
It's felt like we're building something that's more than just like music and releasing music and putting on gigs. It's like, it does feel like there's a community around it now, which is really nice.
Thank you so much.